I wonder if you've ever seen the play or read the book Noughts and Crosses. Noughts and Crosses was originally a novel produced for teenagers and is used quite widely in schools. The book is basically about racism, but it has an interesting twist, for the roles of white and black are reversed in the book. In this story, black people are wealthy, educated, have political power and economic power and dominate the media. They are the crosses. They have a positive mark. White people are poor, marginalised, excluded from the best schools and jobs, and have no effective political power. They are the noughts, or the nothings. This simple reversal of the way racism is often experienced is very effective, because the audience identify in the opposite way to the norm and see their own attitudes, words and actions in a new light. They feel the injustices differently and hear their own voices used against them. At the centre of the story are a boy and a girl, Sephi and Callum. Sephi is a cross and Callum is a nought, and the story tracks their growing through teenage years. Their friendship and eventual love is against the backdrop of noughts and crosses living separate lives with a very strong power imbalance. What is most interesting, however, is the way that the two young people, determined as they are to remain friends, find themselves caught up and expressing the prejudices of their own racial groups. In particular situations, they find themselves unexpectedly using the most insulting of terms of the other. They misrepresent the actions and motives of the other along the lines of the racial stereotypes that their friends and family hold. Despite their best efforts, both find they cannot help themselves. In a moment of horror at their own actions, they realise that the way they see things have been conditioned by their own upbringing and racial culture. How difficult it is to see things as they truly are. For all the time our seeing is conditioned by our social and cultural setting and the way we've come to expect to see things. The idea of seeing what we expect, or rather being surprised at what is seen is not what we expect, is at the heart of our stories today. 1 Samuel tells the story of Samuel's visit to anoint the one who will be king, and he does not see what he expects. Samuel has anointed Saul, of course, and Saul was a mountain of a man. As chapter 9:2 tells us, he stood head and shoulders above everyone else in all Israel. So Samuel naturally thinks he will find someone of a similar physique here. He looks on Eliab and sees such a man. Samuel says, "Surely the Lord's anointed is now before the Lord." But the Lord tells him that this is not the one, for the Lord does not see as mortals see. Then he examines one by one 7 of Jesse's sons, and none of them are chosen. It's only when the youngest, the one with the least status, and the one who looks least like a warrior king, that he sees as God sees. The Gospel reading is the story of the healing of a blind man that gives rise to a confounding of normal expectations and ways of seeing. In the style of John's Gospel, it works on a number of levels. Who sinned, this man or his parents? Reveal how the disciples see things. They've grown up to see that those who are blind or impaired in body are somehow connected with sin. Just as prosperity is a sign of God's blessing, so illness is a sign of sin and God's curse. But Jesus says it's neither of these, but to show God's character and work, and so follows a healing and a long discussion about sin and seeing and blindness, and ultimately points to people who are blind because they refuse to see the way God sees. The message of these passages is not difficult to grasp. God sees things differently. To walk the way of Christ is to be open to see things differently, to see things from a different perspective, to begin to look at things through God's eyes. For Jesus saw Zacchaeus not as a traitor or a small, mean-spirited man, but as a lonely person ready to change. And Jesus saw the Samaritan woman not as a foreigner, but as a person with whom to discuss spiritual things. Jesus saw the woman caught in adultery not simply as a sinful woman, but someone in need of forgiveness and a new start. Jesus saw Peter not simply as a big boaster, overestimating his courage, but also as a rock on which to build the church. The truth is that being seen differently can have a huge effect. When I was at school, I loved football and played it every day. But I was not very good at it, and when teams were picked, I was always near the end or last to be chosen. And then one day, a new boy arrived at our school. As a token of welcome, he was asked to have first pick of a team at playtime. Of course, he didn't know anyone, and he chose me first. People thought this was very funny, but that day I scored 4 goals. It was never repeated, but on that day, the fact that he saw me differently somehow allowed me to become better. The scripture calls us by the grace of God to see things differently, to see others through heaven's eyes, as one of Paul Field's songs puts it. Perhaps we can look again at the work colleague who always wants to be the centre of attention, at the neighbour who always complains, at the loud young person in the street, or the people we've written off or stopped talking to or avoid, and perhaps deeper than that, to acknowledge our prejudices and limited knowledge. Joe Berry's father, Anthony Berry, was killed in the 1984 Brighton bombing. She spoke on the radio a couple of years ago. She related that she'd had a series of meetings with Patrick McGee, the man convicted of the bombing. She didn't say she'd forgiven him, but she did say she'd met him in order to understand him and salvage something positive from the atrocity. It was clear that she'd grown to know something of this man's life. And it was clear too that he had come to see the world differently. She spoke of his experience as a poor child, discriminated against because he was Catholic. He spoke on a platform with her about when he planted the bomb, that he did not see people, and he realised how wrong he'd been. He had been blind. Both had learned to see the other with empathy, and both had grown thereby. But if walking in God's way tells us to see others differently, that must also include ourselves. How we see ourselves is also important. On my bad days, I see my faults, the things I've done wrong, the things I've messed up, the people I've let down. I see my selfishness and pride and the way I've put my own interests ahead of others. And I could get stuck there. And I think that's truly who I am. But it's at that point that I'm invited to see as God sees and accept that I'm loved and in God's love can grow to be the person God wants me to be. Today's scriptures encourage us by God's grace to see others and ourselves as God sees. May it be so. Amen.